Okay, hi, ladies and gentlemen. As you're preparing for N-levels and O-levels or whatever you're doing right now, okay, we're going to teach you how to read a climograph. And basically, the question we're trying to do is to describe the climate as shown in figure 1. And as you can see, figure 1 is right here. Okay, whenever you get a question like this, let's say this is a 5-mark question, you need to make sure you have to describe both the temperature as well as the rainfall. Now let's look at this climograph. Okay, the line graph always represents temperature, whereas the bar graph represents rainfall. Okay, as you can see, on the left axis is temperature and the right is rainfall, but it may switch at any one time. So please... let's look at the temperature first. First thing you need to do is this. Look for the maximum in this entire year. As you can see, it's in May. Now, in May, exactly what is the temperature? Please look out. You need to use a ruler. Place it there. Make sure it's straight. Okay, you can see it's 28.1. It'd be good if you can jot down 28.1 here. So first thing you need to do is to write down the maximum temperature. Oh yeah, what am I doing? Oops, sorry. Maximum temperature is 20. Sorry. Okay, so as you can see, maximum temperature is 28.1 degrees Celsius in May. You need to tell me exactly when, which month has that maximum temperature. Next thing you do, go back to the graph, look for the minimum. And minimum is seen here in both January as well as December. And it is around 26.5. So next thing I write down, minimum is 26.5 degrees Celsius from December to Jan. Next thing I can do is to find the annual temperature range. And to revise with all of you, annual temperature range is found this way. You get your maximum minus your minimum. And then you will get a total of 1.6 degrees Celsius. And that is why you write down annual temperature range is 1.6 degrees Celsius. What?
Degrees Celsius important, units.
Oh, units are very, very important because it's not Fahrenheit, it's not any mm or whatever, not, it's degrees Celsius. Okay, good. Yeah, sorry. Okay, next thing you need to do is this. Okay, you need to find out whether it is constantly high throughout the year or is it fluctuating. Now, be very careful when you look at the axis. If it starts at 26 and it ends about 28.5, honestly, even though this line goes up and down, it does not mean that it's fluctuating. Okay, it just shows that it's actually quite constant because it depends on your y-axis. So how do we describe this? We describe it as temperature is high and constant, and the mean annual temperature of around 27 degrees Celsius throughout the year. And that's all you do for temperature. You okay so far? Okay, yeah. Let's move on to precipitation. Okay, as we said just now, precipitation, you need to look at the bar graphs. First thing you do, similar to temperature, you look for the maximum rainfall, which is in December. Now always remember, if this side is rainfall, you read from rainfall on this side. Okay, so you get 310 millimeters. Whereas the minimum, it is in April, June, and August of about 140 mm. So in your answer, you write down minimum is 310 mm in December, in minimum is 140 mm in April, June, and August. Yes, please note your units. Very important. Okay, let's go on. Okay, total annual rainfall, all you need to do is to add up all the numbers together. It is okay if you're not too accurate, but please use your ruler. So after you add everything up, make sure you write down your units. So for this answer is 2,165 millimeters. Next thing you do is to look for any distinct wet or dry seasons. Meaning, if you can see throughout the year, there is no distinct period where there's very little rain and there's no distinct period where there's a lot of rain. So it's considered no distinct wet or dry season. And that's all there is for temperature and precipitation. Last thing you do before you move on, write down the climate type. It is very obviously equatorial climate because it's high rainfall and high temperature throughout this year. Now, if you write all these things, you will get your 5 marks, no problem. Okay? Hope it's helpful. Okay, so the next question we have, same question. Describe the climate as shown in figure 2. And here we have a new climograph. First thing you do, Yes, okay, so just a reminder, line graph stands for temperature and bar graph stands for rainfall. As we did previously, the first thing you need to do is to look at the maximum temperature for this climograph. And when you put your ruler here, please use a ruler, thank you. Okay, so first thing you need to do is to write down the maximum temperature and which months they occur. Okay, so the answer is 27.8 degrees Celsius in May as well as June. Here and here. As you can see, even though this is quite similar, but it is not the same. So be careful about that. Next thing you do, look for the minimum. Minimum is right here. And the answer is 22.2 degrees Celsius in December and January. And of course, you go on to find out the temperature range. So the annual temperature range is 5.6 degrees Celsius. And as I said, it is maximum minus minimum. Next thing you do is okay, so we move on to rainfall. And for rainfall, as you can see, it's very obvious. This is the maximum in July, and that is 600 millimeters. Okay, remember your units. And following that is your minimum, which is in January. Okay, and December is a bit different. So yeah, don't. It's in January and it is 5 millimeters. Next thing you do is to find the total annual rainfall. As usual, you add up everything, okay, and you put it total mm. Yeah. Okay, and then as you can see for this particular climograph, there are distinct wet and drier seasons. So you need to talk about that because that is the general trend of rainfall. So how do you do this? Firstly, talk about the wet season. Tell me in which months is it a wet season with how much of rain. So for this answer, it is the wet season from June to August with more than 500 millimeters of rain, whereas the dry season is from November to February with less than 50 mm of rain. And that gives you about 1 mark. Okay, and then after you're done with temperature and precipitation, please remember to talk about the climate type. So the climate type is very obviously tropical monsoon climates because temperatures are high and there's a distinct wet and dry rainfall. Easy, isn't this? Alright.